Welcome to the Camino Talks. My name is Tania Ramonde, and I have with me Peter Denio. Thanks for joining us. We're here to share and to talk about a very special story that you had on your Camino. You walked the full French way from Saint-Jean to Santiago, but that wasn't the most impactful thing. You got along the way to meet 15 friends and family members that walked with you, especially toward the end of your journey. So today we're not only talking about walking, we're talking about people joining us and letting people and the journey changes. So first of all, thank you for being here and thank you for sharing your Camino with us.
Tanya, thank you so much for having me. It was an incredible experience. I think it was a pinnacle highlight of my life. So I'm happy to share it and hopefully it's helpful to others.
Great. So let's start by the beginning. What role has walking played in your life?
Yeah, walking has become a more significant part of my life. I would say in my 30s and my 40s, I had picked up running and did quite a few running races. But unfortunately, I had a back injury, which prevented me from doing a lot more running. But I still like the outdoors. I still was looking for a way to experience nature, but also get some exercise. So walking and hiking has become an important part of my life. I wouldn't say that I was rigorous by any stretch, but I just would do it as a way to socialize, spend time with family, and also to enjoy nature. So I live in the northeast of the United States in New Jersey. So there's plenty of trails to hike and woods to hike in. So that would be generally the case. But like I said, I would not be somebody who would be like an extreme hiker or anyone who was doing significant hours. Like the Camino, I think the Camino is certainly the next step. So was looking forward to that.
And what inspired you then to walk the Camino?
Gosh, it was a confluence of quite a few different things. I was turning 50. And I was trying to think of what's really important to me in my life. And people are certainly a very important part of my life. I wanted to be surrounded by people that I loved and cared about. But as I mentioned, the outdoors is important to me. Nature is important to me. Exercise is important to me, but also culture and travel. I love going out to eat when I can. I'm not extravagant in my eating, but to be at a meal with friends and family and loved ones and to be able to enjoy that with others is near and dear to my heart. So when I was trying to think of what I wanted to do for my 50th birthday and looking at all those boxes, the walking the Camino just was perfect. It was perfect. And I would add, I'm not a big camper. So to be able to have hostels or hotels available at the right points along the way was just perfect for me.
It sounds like a great celebration for a 50th birthday. And what did you know about the Camino when this all happened, when the idea appeared?
Say that again?
What did you know about Camino?
What did I know about it?
What was in your mind?
Yeah, not much. I mean, you certainly get to know a whole heck of a lot of the Camino after you've done it. But beforehand, to be honest with you, it was, it's the typical story, I feel like, for many of seeing The Way, the movie. And from that, it was in the back of my mind. And when I was thinking about what to do, a friend of mine had done the trip. And so I spoke to that person and that kind of led me to doing it.
And how did you get all those people to jump on board for your birthday celebration?
Yeah. Like you said, about 15 people joined me at different parts of the trip. And I know not everyone is capable of doing I did the full French way, as you mentioned. But the dream was to have people from different parts of my life join me at different times. my family and some very close friends who happened to be a part of a prayer group that I'm a part of joined me for the last 100 kilometers. But I had high school friends join me. I had my siblings join me for another part, and then I had a part of it that was just by myself. But it takes planning. I mean, that's the key.
Very
About 2 years out from the time I started letting people know that this was what I was thinking of doing. Um, and I gave them general dates. I got the sense who might be on board pretty early on. And as I started to plan, um, I would put out dates and times as to when people can join. Had certain preferences in terms of I didn't want to mix people. I wanted to have dedicated time with groups of people. Like, for example, my siblings, I really wanted to have a dedicated time just with them. So I would prioritize who would come and ask them what their availability was first, and then built out from there based on different groups of people. And um, it was kind of tricky because you can't, from what I learned, you can't really book until about a year in advance. So things were kind of on hold until about a year, but 2 years out is when I started communicating it with people and letting people know the time frame.
It sounds like a lot of work. When did Follow the Camino join your plans?
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty early on for me. As I mentioned, when I was thinking about what to do for my 50th birthday, somebody from my church had just gone. In fact, she gave me the idea to do the Camino. I was looking at a few different options in terms of like adventure trips or something like that. But for the reasons I mentioned already, this really fit everything I wanted to do together. Um, so she had used Follow the Camino, and
Mhm.
so I asked her about what you all had done, what her experience of it was, and to me, it just took a lot of the guesswork out of planning. So what I really appreciated what Follow the Camino did was, I was able to give you all the time that I wanted to do, the length of time, and I expressed priorities for me, what was important. For me in particular, it was important to, for example, I only wanted really hotel stays for my time. I wanted to do all the paradors that were on the route. Um,
Mhm.
I wanted to have particular rest days in certain locations that would give me the opportunity to experience culture. And I think what was most helpful to me is as a group who was able to create the walking plan based on my capability, but also my interests, and to trust that that was being done, because it's just so much work to figure out length of walking and when to stop and what are good places to stop. And when I got the itinerary from you all, I was able to make modifications, and I heard something happen. I reached out and I said, I was interested in, adjusting it a little bit. And as long as it's done enough in advance, it was pretty easy to do. So yeah, early on, Follow the Camino was an important part of it. I knew that it wasn't possible really to do it. In fact, I reached out to you all before a year, and the wisdom that was shared is like, they're really not taking reservations beyond a year from the date you're planning on traveling. But the good news was getting in touch with you ahead of time, especially with that many people, to say this is coming,
Yeah.
this is what I'm looking for. And even without setting the reservations for the places I was going to stay, you all were able to give me an approximation so I could begin to share that with the people who were traveling with me.
Yes, we always say that early planning is key to having a nice experience on the Camino, but with a trip as customized as yours and with that many needs and different things from what a usual pilgrimage is, I'm sure booking ahead of time and at least getting to know the project ahead of time was key to make it work for you. And now, how did you get all those people to train? Were they were they fit for the Camino, or they just appear there? How was that those previous weeks?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, another thing that was very helpful is that you sent a training plan.
Yes.
Um, so that was perfect. What we did is the people that live close by, we had a weekly walk that we did. Um, and it was set for particular days. And when it ramped up to 2 days and 3 days, we would just put it out there, and whoever could make it would go. And it would be after work, and we do the basic walks during the week, and on the weekends we'd have long walks. And whoever came. But I would say the training, you could tell that I'm a planner. So I didn't only do just what was on the training plan. I did more than what was in the training plan. I wanted to be very ready so that I was not feeling that it was physically limiting for myself to do the full walk, which for me took 6 weeks. So, but people of very different levels were a part of it. And the common phrase which we really embraced, of course, that folks who are planning this probably know, is everyone has their own Camino. So people really took that to heart and didn't see that if they needed to take a taxi at some point, or they knew they weren't going to be able to do the walk, that they just freed themselves from feeling like not walking does not, if you don't walk the full day, it doesn't mean that you're not experiencing Camino. And we had that. We had people in the group who needed to do that for a variety of different reasons. And I think that really helped the group feel comfortable about it. But one of the things I did learn, and I know one of the questions is, what did you learn? Pacing.
Of course.
I think one of the key things, and I have more lessons, but since it's related to the walking and the training, one of the key things I learned is that everyone does have their own individual pace. And while it might be nice idea, like I had this image in my mind that I was going to be walking with all the people that were coming with me at different times. But ironically, what I've learned is that if you're trying to keep up with someone, your body, if your body's not ready for it, it's going to have an impact. You don't want that. You want to be able to walk as much as you can. Equally, if you are at a faster pace and you're slowing yourself down, that also has an impact. So I had friends of mine who were slowing down to stay with individuals, but what that translates to is more time walking than your body is normally used to anyway. And I think one of the key things that is that time walking matters. And if your body's not used to it, it's going to have an impact. So going at your own pace may mean that you're not going to be walking together with the same people, and that's okay. But you have designated stops, and you meet up along the way, and you see each other at night and so on. But to really listen to your body and get to know your body during the time and what it needs and respond to it that way is important.
There's a beautiful philosophy there, not only for the Camino, but for life in general, life outside the Camino as well.
Amen.
And what do you think the Camino made such a unique travel experience for you? Once you've been there, you've walked this, what made your Camino so special?
Yeah. My goodness. I think there's a few things. One is, I know not everyone has the luxury to do the full French way. But I would say for me, the gift was the gift of time and the gift of relationships during it. And I would broaden that to relationships, not just the people who joined, but the people I met along the way, of course. And there was this other element which was really unexpected for me. It was the somebody had suggested to me right before I left, they said, make sure you write stuff down because so much happens that you're not going to remember it all. Um, and I'm not really a journaler by nature. So I was experimenting with a video blog that I could have and I could use on my phone, or I brought a tablet with me also that I could use. And I was pretty dedicated to that. And that had a really significant and important contribution, not only to my trip, but also the lasting effect afterward. One, it just doing a reflection really helped for me to process along the way, and it was done in a style that worked for me. So doing a video on my camera where I'm just talking, I have plenty of hours to walk, so I was just taking my phone and talking while I was walking, whatever was coming to mind, and I was able to upload that. And the reason why that was important is, one, it's helpful for me then processing, but also in the future and looking back at it. But also because it was a video blog, people who are joining me along the way later on, who are so eager to know what this experience is like because they're anticipating it for themselves. But this wider network of friends and family and people, like, I had put it up on my Facebook page. I said, if anyone cares to observe or join, and I was shocked at the amount of people that were interested in me doing this trip, people that I haven't spoken to in years, and some people who like forwarded on from their friends. And the video blog had the opportunity for them to comment. And what was really powerful for me was just when I was posting new comments or posts is to see the reflections of other people. So the relationship part for the people that was there, the people that I met, and I was able to include them in my blog, but also this wider network of people socially through this video was an unanticipated experience that compounded the meaning of the trip for me. So the relationships, as I mentioned, was key. But the other thing to me, really, Tanya, that was important and unique about, I think, this trip, especially for the length of time that I was able to participate, was the capacity to let go of responsibility and to enter into time in a different way. And what I mean by that is, as I mentioned, I'm over 50 now. I can't remember the last time I didn't know what day of the week it was. It was just time after like a week or so of being in it. I wound up, I was like, this is wonderful. I don't know what time, what day it is during the week. And the value of the simplicity that is the Camino, which is, we have basically one thing we need to do every day. We need to get up, we need to walk. And I think in our modern world and society, the capacity to let go of all that and to simplify and just say, my job for today is to walk. And the beauty of that, when you have other people joining you, when people go on vacations, the way that Follow the Camino is different than other experiences, one of which is that we know if we're doing group vacations, there's a lot of logistics planning. But then when you get there, it's like, you either got to go food shopping, you got to decide where you're going to go to eat, what are you going to do each day? People want to do different things. All of that is removed from the experience. So instead of having the complications and logistics and sometimes conflicts that come up with a group, everyone who's bought into it knows, oh, this is what we're doing today, and it just creates the space. Ironically, the time creates the space for the deepening of the relationships, and that combination of time and relationship was so important and unique. And I think is what makes it and will make it perhaps the best experience that I've had in my life and will have.
That is so beautiful. I always find that when you walk with others, the conversation just flows differently. It is very different from when you are sitting in front of someone else and you're discussing something. But when you walk, it's like the mind goes in a different direction, and you get to access some different thoughts that are not there usually.
Oh, just to build on what you said, Tanya, what was important about the conversations for anyone who's thinking about doing this with family and friends, it wasn't the first hour, it wasn't the fourth hour with conversations. It was day 3 in the 8th hour, where you get past all the things, and then you really get to some of the essential things about our life experiences that we would have never gotten to because of the craziness of life and the busyness of life, right? So just by example, me and my siblings, we're most of us are married. I have 3 younger brothers, so most of us are married with kids. And when we get together with families, our families, it's chaos. It's a good chaos, but
Very
you,
serious.
you don't get to have the conversations that you really are yearning to have because you don't have the space or time. And so consistently, like deep into the walks, multiple days in, I kept thinking to myself, we would have never gotten to this conversation if we were doing anything else but what the Camino was.
That is beautiful. And with so many people and so many kilometers on your Camino, I'm sure there were hundreds or thousands of things that happened that you cannot choose one. But I'm asking you anyway, was there a moment or a particular thing in the journey that is stood out? That's something that was really special for your experience?
Hmm. Um, you're right. There are so many. Um, uh, well, here's one. This may or may not happen for other folks, but it did happen to me. Um, in one of the days that I was alone walking, I think I had about 10 or 12 days to myself walking. Um, a member of my church had given me a gift, a financial gift, to be able to meet up with somebody else and to enjoy a meal together. And it was getting close to the end when a bunch of family was coming in, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to meet anyone where I'm going to be able to extend this invitation. And this other gentleman that I met at a rest stop, like um, a food truck. We wound up chatting. He also wound up being from the United States. He was doing the walk with his 2 sons, and they had blown past him. They were much further ahead. So we started walking, and I suggested that we wind up meeting up in a city. Uh, a city together that we were both going to be at the same time, and that I treat him to dinner, and his 2 kids, and so we wound up walking the rest of the time, and it was one of those things where you're talking about life, and we're connecting very strongly about our life experiences and sharing some pretty like intimate experiences about each of our lives. So much so that he winds up saying, I don't think I've shared what I've shared with you to anyone else. And he's there with his 2 sons. And uh, so it was a moving experience with somebody else who's walking with their their kids to have an important, memorable time together. We wound up having dinner the night that Spain won it wasn't the World Cup, but what was it? It's the competition. It was last summer. So
Eurocopa?
what's yeah, it may have been. It was like all of Europe, I guess, and was that what Spain won?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it happened to be that night, and we were in a city, and it was outdoor screening, and people were going crazy. The two boys were having a great time, and it just like put an exclamation mark on the experience with them. And I was able to go back and say to the person who generously gave me money to have a nice meal with somebody, a stranger. Have a memorable trip. In fact, the guy just texted me this week, checking in to see how I am, and we were connecting as well. So important interactions like that happen, and have the important ability to shape who we are, which is fantastic.
That sounds like a great experience and a great celebration for the after meal. And the Camino is often described as something transformative, and I want to know, what did you learn about yourself and how does that apply to your daily life now? Did you bring something from the Camino to your regular out of the Camino life?
I did. Yeah. It goes back to the time and relationships. It was a dedicated time for me to just spend time reflecting, and also with people, spend time to be in meaningful relationships. And I think it's something that I've tried to do in my life, and I think I do pretty well. But it just reinforced the fact that, we only have a limited amount of time on this earth. How are we spending that time, and who are we spending it with is important. And I think it just, for me in my life, it just reemphasized that I need to spend the time with the important people in my life. And I keep trying to do that every day.
That's beautiful, but you already decided that when you chose this as your 50th celebration, there was an
That's right.
active choice there.
That's right.
We're almost finished with the interview, but I want to ask, how was the feeling when you reached Santiago, that first time you stood in front of the cathedral?
Yeah. I let me answer that question, but before I do, I think there's something. Uh, this There was a question that I mentioned earlier about surprises and challenges, and I thought that
Mm.
this might also be helpful contribution to folks. Um, I think one of the things that I learned that was a challenge and really surprising was, despite how hard I worked at working out, I was surprised at how challenging the walking still can be. Because even and I what I learned is that, and with doing more than the exercise that was asked for, what was difficult to replicate was doing it day after day for the lengthy period of time. And I underestimated that and the impact on my feet. Um, and so just being attentive to that, um, very few people are going to be able to walk for 6 to 8 hours a day, multiple days in a row. So what does happen there is that I learned that your feet swell beyond what you think it's going to swell. Um, and to moderate, your care of your feet. And I learned how to bandage my feet in a way so that it would not be blistered. I didn't realize I would learn that so quickly. Um, but it was just something I couldn't train for because I just didn't have the time to walk as lengthy as I did. But um, getting to Santiago, um, this might sound like anticlimactic to people who are listening to this, but to me, Santiago, it wasn't the destination, but it was always going to be the journey for me. And I think I treated it that way. So I think that was really important out of the whole time. I think many of the people who had joined me, and most of the group had joined me for the last 100 kilometers, were like all staring at me with like their phones videotaping me, like waiting for me to break down in tears. I think they were ready
Of
for it.
course,
I'm
like
like,
these epic moments.
yeah. And I'm like, this is great. Like, but it wasn't, I don't think the moment that I think some of the people with me were anticipating, because it wasn't that. And what I did to make a point of the different times of the day, I didn't share this, but one of the ways that I made the walk intentional for me was I did 2 practices during the day, every day. In the morning, whoever I was walking with, or if I was walking by myself, I reflected on, or we spoke about, what are we grateful for in this day. It didn't have to be what are we grateful for that we're happening right now, but what's something we're grateful for in our life. And it was amazing to see what conversations came out of that, even with people that I was walking with that I didn't know on the days off, on the days where I didn't have people that I knew joining me on the trip, just people I met along the way. The second
Mhm.
thing I did is at the end of the day, with whoever I was with, or if just by myself, because I wind up, I'm Catholic and I wind up working for the Catholic Church. For me, I was like, where did I experience God in the day? And for people that are not religious, I would say, what was an important moment that stood out to you for the day? Kind of the question that you asked, Tanya.
Yeah.
And that led to so many different conversations as well. So I guess that's a long way of saying every day was almost arriving at Santiago because of those 2 questions that I had, and whoever I was with, we were doing. A funny side story is that I met this young Italian couple who were doing the Camino, and I told them that I was doing this. So would you like to join me? And they were thrilled. They're like, absolutely. I met them several days later, and I asked them how they're doing that, and they said, "Oh, we love that practice. They were doing it every day that I hadn't seen them. One, gratitude in the beginning, and where do they see God in their day as a way to wrap up the day." And it was pretty powerful. So Santiago
It's
was
great to
great.
have that impact.
Yeah, Santiago was great. We stayed at the Parador. It was incredible. If you get a chance to do it, anyone should be able to do that at the end. But and we definitely took a free day afterwards, which was important. So it was fantastic.
Yes, I will always recommend that. At least leave one day to Santiago to enjoy the journey, to celebrate your accomplishment. It's beautiful to just have a rest day after it all. And unless you want to walk to Finisterre, but that's a different story.
That's right.
And last, the question that I always ask everyone who's here: for someone thinking about walking the Camino for the first time, what advice would you give them? Something that you wish you knew before you started your own journey.
Yeah. Some of the themes that are mentioned, I would emphasize, like planning, especially if you're going to do it with other people. I think the most important thing is that I didn't say is know what you're looking to get out of the experience. Um, and that helped. It helped me, and it helped others who were joining me to recognize that once I knew what I wanted out of the experience, there's inevitably going to be trade-offs for choosing what you want out of the experience. You're not going to be able to do everything, but just owning what you want out of the experience helps you to let go of the other stuff instead of feeling like you need to do those things. So, for example, I chose to stay in hotels. A consequence of that was, without staying in the hostels or the pensions, you don't meet as many people along the way. You still meet people along the way, but I had my own room every time, right? And it wasn't typically like community meals. I was okay. Like at one point I was like, maybe I should have, like the should do. And I realized, oh, no. What's most important to me is that I have the time and space to be present, to relax at the end of the day, the way I need to and want to refresh for the next day. But if other
Like you
people
said
like, oh,
before,
sorry.
you one always wants to experience all the options in the Camino. You want to try your own, but also any other particular thing that anyone has chosen. It's beautiful to see it that way, because it's like the world and all the experiences that are in one Camino.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And in fact, a friend of mine, who came the last 100 miles, she came and she really wanted to walk the whole 100 kilometers or 100 miles from Saria. And for her, that meant walking 10 to 12-hour days. And the rest of us were arriving far earlier. And for us, even at that point, it was like, oh my gosh, you're missing out on us. And da, da, da. But again, for her, and this is what we had to learn, for her, that was important. And she was able to let go of those things and embrace what she wanted to. But it does have choices that means that we're just inevitably not going to be able to do because of it. And that's okay. So that I would just say to anyone doing it, what is it that you're looking to get out of the Camino? Embrace it and let go of the things that it means you're not going to be able to do because you can't do it all.
Thank you so much, Peter, for joining us today. It's been great chatting to you. And thank you all listening or watching this video. And the Camino doesn't end at Santiago, and Peter's story proves it. You walk far, but you also open your heart, let people in, let them walk by you. And that takes courage, that takes love, and it's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing it with us. May your path will always be full with moments like this, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Camino Talks. Thank you very much, Peter.
Thanks, Tanya.
Bye.